Hi, I'm Shiva. I'm a PhD student at Concordia University in Montreal. I specifically work in organic electronics in the Department of Physics here. So this video is about my academic journey to a PhD. I come from Kerala, India, a small town called Ambadavayil in Wayanad. I did my high school in the same place, but later I moved to a different high school. After that, I joined a residential entrance coaching center for clearing JEE Advanced and JEE Main exams, but I couldn't. At that time, I didn't have any other direction, so I just chose BSc Physics and joined in a nearby college called St. Mary's College. But during the last year of my bachelor's, I started preparing for JAM exam to get admission for Masters in Physics at NIT or IIT. And I got admission to NIT Calicut, but during the COVID period. At NIT Calicut, I was only able to attend the offline classes during the last semester of my Masters. So most of the classes were online. And I don't like the online classes, so I got a lower CGPA of 7.86. Because of my lower CGPA, I didn't get a project supervisor during my Masters because most of the professors were reluctant to take me as their project student, and only one professor came forward. His name is Dr. Pradeep Padmanabhan, and he has played a key role in getting my PhD position in Concordia. Under his supervision, I published a first author conference paper and a paper where I was the second author. So I had like 2 publications during my Masters. Even though I had this lower CGPA, I had a very good research caliber. So that showed me I had like a very good research caliber. And I also believe that maybe I'm not the best student in terms of learning whatever the professor is feeding you during the lecture period. But I am sure that I was a really good researcher, better than any other student in my batch. In my Masters, I did my research on organic field effect transistors and mostly the computational part. During my Masters, I applied to many of these universities across the world. Even in India, I applied for IIT, Palakkad, etc. So in most of these universities, I get shortlisted to the final round, but I get rejected due to my lower grades. So since I was not able to get my PhD position anywhere, I tried applying for Masters, especially in Germany, and I got admitted into some of the universities in Germany. But my student visa came very late, so I had to abandon that idea. Meanwhile, I was under constant pressure to get a government job and settle down in India. But I was persistent. I was focused on getting a PhD all this time. For 1.5 years, I did some tutoring, and during this time, I was supported by my brother financially. Also, my girlfriend got a PhD admission in one of these universities, and she also helped me during this situation financially and emotionally. So finally, I got a position for Masters in Electrical and Computer Engineering in Concordia under a supervisor. Initially, the supervisor promised me that he would provide me funding when I show that my grades are really good during the semesters in Concordia. But when I came here, and he said that there is no kind of funding for you, like he doesn't have any funding for me. So I was in a terrible situation at that time. So the only thing that I was able to do was to find a part-time job and support myself during this for my Masters. I was really heartbroken at that time because I wasn't able to get any kind of part-time job in Canada, in Montreal, especially a French area, which requires a French proficiency to get a part-time job mostly. But I had a GIC amount of 750 CAD per month, which helps me to support myself during this period. So those were the days of my mental breakdown. But I didn't lose my hope. I also applied to many of the professors in Concordia University, especially in the physics department. And I got in touch with a professor from Austria. So he was also doing the same field of research that I did during my Masters. I emailed this Austrian professor and asked if I could get a PhD position there, but he said that there is no kind of PhD position here in his lab, but he wants to know what my field of research was. So I did a presentation of my works during my Masters in one of their group research meetings. But I asked him if I could volunteer to work in his lab, where I had no salary, no guarantee, no promise of a PhD, just an opportunity to learn all the sophisticated equipments in his lab. So his lab is very sophisticated lab. He has an ultra high vacuum system, a glove box, an FTIR, a Raman spectroscopic instrument. So he has like all the general equipments that are required for the fundamental study of the organic electronic materials. Even though I won't get a PhD, I asked him if I could volunteer just to learn all this stuff so I can use these techniques and all the experimental skills later in any of the other universities that I may get a PhD. I can also add these things to my CV as well. So really good thing for a student who aspires to get a PhD. By the end of the first semester, I applied again to my girlfriend's university in the US, and she managed to help me to get partial funding for my master's there. But still it's a problem because I have to find the remaining fund, which is almost 18 to 20 lakhs, and I don't have any money at that time. So this happened during the end of my first semester. The very next week, I was called for a regular meeting with the professor from physics department that I asked to volunteer to work for. I went to his office and I thought that it was a regular meeting, but he said that, "Congratulations, I have selected you as my PhD student. I arranged your funding even with your low grades. The only condition is that you have to ace in all the subjects that you have taken during the current ongoing semester." Honestly, I was not expecting a PhD from him, because it was almost 3 or 4 months that I have been volunteering to work in his lab, and I almost felt no hope of getting PhD there, because he didn't mention a PhD where during this entire period of 4 or 5 months. The thing that made him to choose me as his PhD student, one of the reasons may be the 2 papers that I published during my master's. But I feel like the main reason was why I volunteered to work in his lab. It's not like, oh, this student is actually dedicated and wants to work in his lab like a good little boy. But it's not like that. The thing is that in his lab, he has glove box, ultra high vacuum systems, everything. So it takes a lot of time just to learn and to get proficient with all these equipments, especially to maintain the glove box, to operate the glove box, and to take special care of ultra high vacuum systems, which are really dangerous if unprofessionals are working on it. What I did was I learned everything so fastly, because I understood that maybe this semester will be the only time I will be able to spend in Canada. If I don't have funding for the next semester, I have to move back to India. So I was very quick and I was trying to learn all these things in a short span of time, and maybe that might be the reason. So also one more thing is that if a new PhD student is coming, he has to take almost 4 or 5 months just to learn all these things. It's like wasting a lot of time and resources just for teaching the PhD student. So since I have already learned these things, it was an easy way for him. It reached to a situation where he needs me more than I need him for the PhD. So I think that was the great thing. Like, that was the idea. Like, he didn't ask me to volunteer in his lab. I was the one who asked him whether I could volunteer in his lab. I am grateful that the way that I think that time when I asked for the volunteering in his lab was like a miracle. Mostly people won't do any kind of stuff even if you are fighting for the resources. Like, I don't have enough money. I was trying to find a job somewhere in Montreal, like a part-time job, like in a McDonald's or somewhere, but I didn't get any kind of a job. The only thing that made me to work in his lab without any money was that I want to learn the stuff. It's like curiosity. And I feel like this would be helping in many ways, like in my CV, in my PhD applications to other places. That moment when I heard the news that I got my PhD, it changed my life. And this is how I got my PhD. So one more thing that I need to mention about the professor is that he went all extent to get me funding, even though I had like a lower grade. He talked to all the professors in the physics department, and he made sure that I get a proper funding for all the 4 years without any trouble. So that's the way he helped me with the funding. So I get to know this because whenever I meet a new professor in the physics department, they used to say that, "Oh, you are that student from the engineering department." I felt like people already knew me. That's how I understood that my professor had helped me in many ways just to get the funding. Even though all these things, there is one story that keeps me motivating me to apply to all the universities, even in India or anywhere around the world. It is a story about a student of Pradeep Sir's, a very old batch. I haven't seen him in person. So my professor says this story that he usually applied to all the universities, but he didn't get an admission because he has only modest grades. He applied to many universities, more than the universities that I have applied. Finally, he got Marie Curie Fellowship in Europe. And from there, he got really good PhD paper. Then after that, he went to King Abdullah University of Science and Technology and did a postdoc. Currently, he is one of the principal investigator at Tsinghua University in China. The Tsinghua University is one of the top 20 or 30 universities in the world, and he is a principal investigator. His name is Dr. Safakat Karthadathe. And even if you go to his Google Scholar, you will find a lot of publications which has very high impact factors. This story actually motivated me throughout my whole PhD journey. And I feel like he was the person that inspired me during this time. Like, I haven't seen him in person, but this inspired me a lot. Also, I have to say this one thing that Pradeep sir always said: a student who has very high CGPA doesn't mean that he is going to be a very good researcher. But a student, even if he has a lower grade, he might have a greater potential of becoming a scientist. These words were really striking for me. I was trying to get a PhD with all these words in my heart. I have to thank a lot of people for my PhD admission at this university. First of all, I start to thank my parents who trusted me during this application process, even though they forced me to get a government job, but still they trusted me and gave me money for my master's at Concordia. Then I have to thank my brother who supported me financially during these 1.5 years when I was in India. I have to thank my girlfriend a lot because she supported me mentally, emotionally, all the time. And also, I am deeply grateful to Dr. Pradeep sir. So he was not just a professor for me, he was also a mentor for me. Even though I am in Canada, I still talk to him and we are still in contact. And I also thank my professor, Dr. Ingo Salzman. He is that professor who gave me the PhD position in physics department, for opting me as his PhD student and for believing in me and for believing in my abilities and seeing my potential as a researcher. Also, the same thing happened with Dr. Pradeep sir. I thank my professors at NIT Calicut who gave me the letter of attestations for my PhD positions across the world. And finally, I thank my professors at Concordia University who agreed for the funding.